the author that had really inspired me to push to try to write my own novel is a gentleman named Stephen Pressfield, who wrote Gates of Fire, right, which is one of the great epic. He wrote, that's the story of the 300 before that movie, the 300 was made, but it was about the soldiers of Thermopylae, right?
Yes.
And so the Gates of Fire. So Stephen Pressfield,
one of my favorite books of all time.
It's incredible, and it's a superb book. And the battle sequences are so compelling. Actually, I mean, somewhat I mimicked them in the battle sequences of my novels because I was like, you ain't gonna get better than this, or learn from how he used language to describe it, right? And so he had inspired me, and I've been reading his book. And then my publisher, Simon & Schuster, came back to me and said, so we just got word that Stephen Pressfield will endorse your novel. And I couldn't believe this. Then I discovered the other thing. Stephen Pressfield lives down the street from me. He lives like half a mile from me. So I was like, yeah, and so I asked publisher, can I get his email? And they're like, yeah, and I emailed him, and then we've had several coffees in this area, and now this person who was my icon, and I mean, I wouldn't say I'm his close friend. I would still consider myself a mentee of a mentor, right? But that threshold has been crossed, and he blurred my second novel as well. And so I understand the incredible feeling that you get when someone who is an iconic hero for you, and Vogler is an iconic hero for all writers. I used his book in my screenwriting class at Penn State last year. Right. And so it's incredible. I mean, so this isn't a small thing. I don't think he's out there endorsing everybody. I don't think he does that.
I think the heroine's journey is kind of hard to get hold of. I think the heroine's labyrinth is going to be sitting next to the writer's journey on many people's bookshelves in the country.
Well, that's my intention. I intend to send copies of this to those professors I met at Penn State, saying, I think you guys need to be sharing this with a class. Oh, and if I ever teach another class, I intend to bring that in there.
Now, it's true. Sable also brings up I do a morning show at 9:30 a.m. every day called The Morning Grind. And we've started a tradition where we read a passage from Pressfield's work every single morning. We do deep breathing. Then we take a sip of our coffee or other drink that we've got. And then we read a passage we went through the War of Art, and now we're going through Turning Pro. So we've actually incorporated, I said that if I were going to start a religion, if I were going to do that, resistance and Stephen Pressfield's idea of resistance in the War of Art would replace the idea of sin. So we've incorporated a ritual involving Stephen Pressfield and his work.
There's synchronicity in that. Well, what's interesting is Pressfield is actually a spiritual person. I mean, he is a believer, right? And he gets his endorsement in the War of Art from Robert McKee, who's a very stubborn, sort of grouchy atheist. And his whole endorsement was like, well, this is a great book, but I'm really uncomfortable with references to spirituality. I was like, dude, why put that in the endorsement? He couldn't say, I don't believe in God, and Stephen's making me endorse his book. It's really good. He keeps referencing spirituality. And I was like, stop, Robert. Just stop.
We're going to cut that out of the blurb.
But it was in the blurb.
That's where you put the ellipses. Ellipses.
But so I just want to share. Then we get back to Douglas's wonderful accomplishment, but just an example of what artists don't recognize how influential they are. Stephen doesn't know how influential he is, so he really doesn't. He doesn't understand it. And so I was taking a writer, director, and whatever. I take acting classes to really connect with actors. So I was taking an acting class, and the acting teacher was just mentioning, everyone should read The War of Art as a book to inspire you as an artist. And I said, yeah, no, I know Stephen. And they thought I was just like, everyone in Hollywood was like, I know Steven Spielberg. Right? I was like, no, Steven's, I know him. And like, yeah, whatever. I was like, no, I know Stephen Pressfield. I mean, I've had coffee with him like 4 times. I know him, right? And they're like, what? Yeah. So I emailed Stephen. I was like, they're using your book in my acting class. Would you like to come and speak in the acting class? Man. He's like, really? They're using my book in an acting class? Yeah, sure. So I had connect Stephen with the owner of the acting studio, and he's like, Stephen Pressfield just emailed me. So we bring him into the class, and it's like celebrity. It's like Mark Twain has come in, right? And I became a hero because this guy knows Stephen Pressfield. It's like that scene in Shazam where you know Superman. So he really does know Superman, right? And so, but that's the thing, is he had no idea. Stephen doesn't know that he's influenced tens of millions of artists. He doesn't know.
That's amazing. And Cameron, have you read The War of Art?
Yeah, I have a copy on my desk. You need to reread that every few weeks as an artist.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read it yet. It sounds like that's a must.
What it is, it's the ultimate kick in the butt. What it does is forces you to get up and write. I mean, if there's anything in the world, it forces you to overcome procrastination. I've never seen anything magical like that, because that's every writer's. There should be a book on the nature, but that's The War of Art. The entire book is about the nature of why we procrastinate, and the idea of resistance, that there's almost like a negative spiritual energy that wants to make sure creativity is not born into the world, and he uses
Wow.
archetypes. It's almost like a demon, right? And so he encapsulates it in that language, which made McKee uncomfortable. But he views it as an actual entity, a demonic entity, if you will, that tries to prevent us from giving the gift of creativity to the world.
Well,
and it's an incredible book.
Yeah, resistance is everything that prevents you from becoming everything that you can be.
Yeah.
Whatever you are supposed to be in the world, resistance is everything that stands in your way to achieving that and wants to prevent you from doing that. And it's all about combating that. And he couches it often in military terms. You're going to war against this force and you have to fight the battle every day to become everything that you can be, especially in the creative realm, but in general, everything that you can be.
Yeah.
So
and the genius of the book.
Willpower. I'm sorry. What?
Exactly. And the genius of the book. Yes, it is martial willpower. The genius of the book is this. Every chapter is one paragraph. You open it up, it's 3 sentences that kick you in the ass. That's chapter 1. Turn the page, chapter 2. 3 sentences that kick you in the ass, make you want to write. I mean, that's all it is. That's the genius of it, is that as a writer, you procrastinate. So he's like, you got no reason to procrastinate. Open the book.
You get 1 or 2 lines.
Right.
Yeah, you get 3 lines. And that's enough to make you get up and write that day, right?
That's why I chose to use that
Wow.
for the morning grind. That's why we read in the morning grind, because it's written like that. There's just sometimes it's a paragraph, but everyone is just a chunk. It's a small chunk. That way, every morning we breathe, we take our sip, and we read one passage, because he couches it in one passage. And then
okay, so this is not a book you would want to get on audio. This is one you want to hold,
You
right?
can get it on audio.
put on audio.
Because I have it on audio. I haven't read it yet, but it sounds like it'd be nice to just have it and open it. And
Well, I mean, there's something sacred for me about a physical book. I don't do audiobooks, right? There's something sacred for me about a book. But either way, if it works for you audio, it's about the message. Because again, you'll put the message in chapter 1, audio. Well, 30 seconds later, chapter 2. So it's going to be, I think it might work better to read that book as a book.